On the 13th of October 2002, in the Boston Globe newspaper, Amazon ran an advertisement for some CDs that at the time you could buy for as low as $12.98 on Amazon.com. And although those of us with taste would have been instantly drawn towards the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Once More with Feelings soundtrack, if you look just to the right of it, you would have seen the Disneymania album, also $12.98. Released in September 2002, Disneymania was a Disney song cover album where famous artists and bands were brought together to put their own spin on a classic Disney tune. From Smash Mouth singing I Wanna Be Like You, to Usher singing You'll Be in My Heart, and even Hilary Duff singing The Tiki Tiki Room, the album truly is a masterpiece. Disneymania was a big success, being certified gold in the US, and the album went on to spawn another 6 follow-up albums featuring a variety of different artists, with its final volume, Disneymania 7, being released in 2010. And due to the popularity of the album at the time, its inclusion in this Amazon newspaper ad makes sense. However, the cover of the CD featured in this Amazon advert isn't actually the real cover of the album. And no, not because it's in black and white. This here is the real cover of the Disneymania album, which you can see is slightly different from the ad image. The actual CD cover does, for the most part, feature many of the same artists as the one in the ad, just in a different formation and some using alternative images, but there are some artists, like Ronan Keaton and Anastasia, that are seemingly absent from the ad cover, replaced by other artists. And although there are some discrepancies in the artists featured on the covers, all of the artists that appear on both are actually featured on the album. All of them except for one. This image here. And those of us with a refined musical palette will recognise that this ink mass here on the cover of the Disneymania CD in the Amazon ad is actually an image of Britney Spears, specifically an image from her Oops I Did It Again era. You can find it inside the deluxe album CD case. Floating around online, there are better images of the cover that Amazon used in the ad, which show more clearly that this is Britney Spears, and I'm not just doing one of those psychological ink blot tests. Do you see Britney Spears or your own anxieties? But despite being featured on this cover, Britney Spears is not actually featured on the album. Around the outside of the Britney cover, there are 15 artist names, one of which is Britney's. However, on the actual cover, Britney's name is not there, and instead her name is replaced by a Swedish teen pop group called the A-Teens. Interestingly though, this isn't the only difference in the names from cover to cover. The girl group No Secrets has capital letters in the Britney cover, and S Club 7 becomes just S Club, which was an official name change after the group went from 7 people to 6 when Paul left the group. These slight tweaks in name changes, particularly S Club's correction, suggests that the Britney Spears cover Amazon used in their ad was an earlier version of the album cover that was changed prior to the album's release, which could, theoretically, mean that Britney Spears, at the very least, would have been intended to appear on the album early on in its development. But which classic Disney song would Britney have tackled? Well, on an archived webpage of Disneymania on FYE, the entertainment store, it gives the tracklist of the album detailing all 15 covered songs. And although the positions on the tracklist jump around, most of the songs match up, apart from one. This archived page's tracklist doesn't include Under the Sea, which was sung by the A-Teens, the missing artist from the Britney cover. Instead, the song It's a Small World is listed on the tracklist, and under the tracklist, the website says the following: a unique CD of Disney classic songs performed by the pop stars of the early 21st century. Of particular note is former Mouseketeer Britney Spears' version of It's a Small World. The appeal of this collection goes way beyond children, but to kids of all ages. Kids of all ages being YouTubers with nothing better to do. So it appears, according to this website, that Britney's intended Disney cover was of It's a Small World, the song from the Disney park ride It's a Small World. And ever since I learned this, I have been obsessed. If you couldn't already tell, I am a big fan of Britney Spears, and, hold on to your Mickey ears, Disney adults, I cannot stand It's a Small World, and I understand that it has a rich history, but there's just something about It's a Small World that I really dislike. And due to my seeming unfounded hatred for the song, but my love for Britney Spears, naturally I knew that if Britney had recorded a version of this song, I needed to hear it. And so I have been trying to uncover the truth about Britney's lost Disney song ever since, and I believe I have solved the mystery. Disclaimer: this video is just a theory and details my own personal opinion about what could have happened. All information is alleged. It's a Small World, although not appearing on the first Disneymania album, does actually feature on subsequent Disneymania releases, covered by the Baha Men and an artist called Fan 3. The rumours of Britney Spears having recorded a cover of It's a Small World have been floating around online since the album's release. The song is frequently listed by fans amongst Britney's unreleased songs and is mentioned on many lost media type sites, such as Lost Media Busters on Twitter, and this was actually the first time I had heard of this alleged lost Britney song. On one Britney Spears fan website titled Britney Unreleased, which compiles a list of all of Britney's allegedly unreleased songs, It's a Small World is categorised under the 2001 Britney album era, and the author writes, recorded for Britney. However, it was later supposed to be released on the 2002 Disneymania CD. The track listing was changed shortly before the release. This was the only reference I was able to find online of the song having been written for Britney's own album. Similarly, a Britney Spears fan Twitter account called Daily Spears has tweeted several times about the alleged Disneymania track, saying Britney recorded It's a Small World for Disneymania Volume 1, but was replaced with Jessica Simpson after Jive pulled her song. And this was the only reference I could find online that claimed that Jive, Britney's record label at the time, pulled the song. Also, the part about Britney being replaced by Jessica Simpson is extremely unlikely, as Jessica Simpson also appears on the cover with Britney, so she can't have been Britney's replacement. And so, as you can see, a lot of the information surrounding this alleged song is up in the air. But here is everything I was able to find. To start with, there are actually some websites that are selling the Disneymania album that use the Britney cover in the listing, and so, at the very start of my research, I did purchase the album from one of these listings, and I wasn't surprised when I received the standard version of the album. No Britney, cover or song. It was worth a try though, leave no stone unturned. It would have also made this video a hell of a lot easier. Anyways, regarding the album cover Britney appears on, in the corner of the cover it says Volume 1 Pop. The word pop, although not on the standard release, does however feature on the Japanese version of the album, which was titled Wow Disneymania. Interestingly, the listing for the CD on FYE, which I mentioned earlier, that includes Britney Spears and It's a Small World, is for the quote-unquote import version of the album, and the AVCW number, I'm not actually sure what that is, matches the Wow Japanese version of the album. But the FYE page isn't the only listing for the album that mentions Britney in the CD's description. Whilst researching, I did come across two Amazon listings, one on the UK Amazon and the other on Amazon Japan, where Britney's name appears in the description of the album. Japanese edition of 2002 compilation featuring Disney classics covered by Christina Aguilera, Ashanti, Aaron Carter, Baha Men, NSYNC, Ronan Keaton, Britney Spears. A unique CD of Disney classic songs performed by the pop stars of the early 21st century. Of particular note is former Mouseketeer Britney Spears' version of It's a Small World. And, as you can see, both of these listings, are they called listings, are for the Wow Japanese version of the album. These listings, as well as the pop written on the Britney cover, makes me wonder if Britney's mysterious attachment to the album that she isn't actually featured on originates from the Japanese version of the album. album, and this description is attached to the barcode or identifier of the WoW album in some sort of CD database and is automatically applied when companies list the CD, because this same description appears on both FYE and Amazon. Aside from the album cover and the album descriptions on certain websites, I did find other instances where Britney was seemingly tied to the album. In a series of tweets about the alleged unreleased song shared in May 2025, the Twitter user Die Without Brit pointed out that the same picture of Britney that appears on the strange cover also appears in the TV advert or commercial for the Disneymania CD on this spinning little animation thing, and this appears in both the standard commercial as well as the one about quote-unquote Disney's secret lab. Interestingly, one of these commercials does mention the A-Teens, who weren't present on the Britney cover but were present on the one after, almost in Britney's place. But other than this image on the sphere, Britney is not featured or mentioned in the commercials themselves. I should probably also mention that from what I could find, the images of the artists that were used on the album cover artwork weren't taken specifically for Disneymania. These images were available prior to the album's release, and it appears that the cover art just uses what is essentially stock images of the artist, and Britney is no different because it's from her Oops I Did It Again album. Another mention I came across of both Britney and the Disneymania project was in a Facebook post shared by someone who had worked on the album. Posted alongside an image of an RIAA award for when Disneymania was certified gold, the post read, "Throwback Thursday to my years working with Disneymania. I met so many talented performers, all of whom went on to do amazing things. Shout out to Disneymania alums, Britney Spears, NSYNC, Aaron Carter, Usher, Ashanti, official Jessica Simpson, Christina Aguilera." Now, this was probably one of the most interesting mentions of Britney and the project that I could find whilst researching, because this person appears to explicitly list Britney as a Disneymania alum, despite the fact she didn't appear on the album nor any of the 6 other Disneymania CDs. 8 if you include Disney Remix Mania and Disney Princess Mania, which I don't, because I'm a Disneymania purist. And so, with all these random appearances of Britney scattered throughout the album's alleged artwork, officially released promo material, as well as her presence in item descriptions and posts, it does make you wonder why and how. Well, remember, this is all just speculation and a theory and alleged. As I touched upon before, the most common theory, and the one that I used to have, is that Britney was intended to be on the album, however her track was pulled, perhaps at the last minute, and thus this album artwork is an earlier draft. And I theorised that when Britney was withdrawn from the project and the album's tracklist and other info was being updated for the Japanese version of the album, some areas that required changing, like descriptions, were initially missed, potentially explaining why Britney's attachment to the CD seems to be intrinsically linked to the WoW version of Disneymania, perhaps in some sort of standard CD database. Again, just a theory. And regarding the spinning sphere that appeared in the ads for the CD, I theorised that it was, like the cover, designed earlier and was forgotten about because it was a small aspect of the ads and composed of very few pixels, or potentially because there just wasn't enough time or resources to replace it. Whilst researching, I also tried to think of potential reasons why Britney would potentially be planned for the album but later removed from the final tracklist, outside of the usual timing issues, legal issues, or just a change of heart. And so, for a while, my working theory was that it had been something to do with Britney and Justin Timberlake's breakup, and that there may have been concerns about both Britney and NSYNC appearing on the same album. And I know this was a little crackpot, but the timings do line up. Britney and Justin broke up in March 2002, the same month that Paul left S Club 7, making it S Club. So, if this cover was an early draft version, because of the S Club name change, it most likely would have been made before March 2002, with the new one being made sometime after that, when the band band had changed its name, and between these covers, Britney and Justin would have broken up. But keep in mind, this theory hinges on the S Club 7 S Club change being made due to Paul leaving, rather than it just being a correction from the artist, and the Britney cover could have been made post-March. Also, just for argument's sake, for all we know, this album cover itself might not even be officially produced. Even though it appears in the Amazon ad, it could potentially be a fan-made cover that somehow floated its way into the business space. And so, as you can see, with my theories beginning to spiral and me having run out of online leads, I had to do the unimaginable. I had to actually speak to someone. After weeks, yes, weeks of research, I decided to reach out to some people who had been involved in the creation of the album and that I could find appropriate contact information for. When I do videos like this where I have to contact people to try and find something out, I usually email several people ranging in their levels of involvement in the project as well as their positions in companies, etc. And for this video, from those I contacted, I did receive a single reply. And this reply was from the very last person that I expected would reply, and I greatly appreciate them giving me their time. No, it was not Britney herself. I have decided to withhold the name of the man that responded to my email just in case he wants to remain anonymous, etc. But what I will say is that this man was extremely high up and heavily involved in the company and the Disneymania project. Like, if this was a video about Marvel, I basically got a reply from Stan Lee. And no, it's not the Walt Disney or Mickey Mouse. In my email, I asked about the rumours that Britney was supposed to feature on the album covering It's a Small World and whether such a cover was ever recorded. In his reply, the man discussed his involvement in the project and explained that he is a big Beatles fan and that the name of the album, Disneymania, was a tip of the cap to the Beatlemania phenomenon, the frenzied fan culture which surrounded the band. But regarding Britney appearing on the album, he said that he had never heard that rumour before and that he never reached out to her. He then went on to say, although Britney would have been great on a Disneymania album, he would not have cast her singing It's a Small World, which I do agree with. Me personally, I would have given her Just Around the River Bend, something like that. And so, that was that. Britney was reportedly never reached out to for the project, at least not by this person. And not only that, this person had never even heard rumours of Britney originally being set to appear on the album. Following this email, I felt that, at least for me, this was a pretty definitive answer. She wasn't supposed to be on the album. However, despite this confirmation, one big question remained. If she wasn't intended to be on the album, why did she mysteriously keep popping up in things related to it? Well, like usual, I have a couple of theories. Remember, these are just my own personal theories and speculation. Feel free to comment your own below. The first, and perhaps most basic theory I have, is that the cover was fan-made and it just at some point ended up getting mixed up amongst official media for the project. Although, I don't feel this explains the descriptions of the CD, nor Britney on the spinning globe of Disneymania in the TV ads. And so, my second theory, and the theory I am choosing to believe, is that Britney was used as a placeholder for the album. For example, if you were pitching the concept of Disneymania to executives, you might say, think Beyonce covering Once Upon a Time, Mariah Carey covering Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and say Hanson covering Poor Unfortunate Souls, just to get the basic idea of the project across. And I wonder if there was a list of fake Disney cover songs with their celeb artist singers that were used simply as placeholders on both mock-ups of track lists and CD covers, whilst the actual artists who featured on the project were still being contacted and signed onto the project. Could it be that Britney was simply used to fill a space on the cover and track list temporarily before another artist, the 18s, were attached to the album, and that Britney was never actually intended to be on it? And if these elements, like the cover, were sent out with no indication Britney's name was a placeholder and this photo was just a draft, awaiting confirmation of the final artist so that she could be replaced, you can see how potentially all elements of Britney as a placeholder weren't correctly replaced in all aspects of the project in every release country, especially if the release of the album was on a tight deadline. I don't know whether the album was on a tight deadline, but I do know some of these covers were recorded in July, with the album releasing in September. I'll come back to this in a little bit. I am aware that this is a bit of a crackpot theory, but it's the only possible theory and scenario that I could think of that would explain the odd Britney Spears shadow the project has if she wasn't even reached out to appear on the album. However, the only strange element of this Disneymania mystery that my placeholder draft theory doesn't explain is the Facebook post from the person who was involved in the album's creation that shouts out Britney as a Disneymania alum. Now, the only explanation I could come up with here actually has to do with the band Smash Mouth. Smash Mouth does appear on the Disneymania album covering I Wanna Be Like You from the Jungle Book, and a couple of months before the album's release on Smash Mouth's website there was an update in the news section that said the following: the Mouth was busy the week of July 15th at various recording studios in the San Francisco Bay Area working on a new version of I Wanna Be Like You, a song originally sung by a bear or something in Disney's The Jungle Book. Smash Mouth's take on the album was slated to appear on a Radio Disney CD compilation, but apparently the folks at Disney like the new version so much that it may now be included in the upcoming animated feature The Jungle Book 2. Either way, stay tuned to smashmouth.com and we'll let you know where you can find it when it becomes available. Smash Mouth's cover was actually also featured in The Jungle Book 2, but that aside, I find it interesting that they referred to the project that we know to be Disneymania as a Radio Disney CD compilation. For those who don't know, Radio Disney was a radio station ran by Disney for a teenish audience that did play non-Disney pop songs, and Radio Disney did release their own series of compilation CDs called Radio Disney Jams, which were comprised of, for the most part, non-Disney pop songs that the radio station would play. And although these weren't Disney song cover albums, interestingly, prior to Disneymania, Britney Spears did appear on 2 Radio Disney Jam compilation albums, with songs from her Baby One More Time album. So, with Smash Mouth's site referring to Disneymania as a Radio Disney CD compilation, I wonder if behind the scenes, Disneymania and the Radio Disney Jam series were kind of viewed interchangeably, and therefore, when this person posted about Britney as a Disneymania alum, it's because her songs were featured on the Radio Disney Jams albums. The person who posted this to Facebook was also working with Britney Spears in 2002, so that's perhaps another reason why Britney was incorporated into their post. But honestly, at this point, in regard to everything, who knows for sure? But what I do know, in regard to Britney Spears' alleged lost media cover song of It's a Small World, from the person that I spoke to, it would seem that despite Britney appearing all over the project, she was actually never asked to be part of the project, and she wasn't supposed to be singing the song for the Disneymania album. And that's all I have. I hope this video wasn't too convoluted for you, but I'm trying something new on here, so just let me know what you thought. If you have any other information about the Britney Spears Disneymania mystery or find anything interesting, feel free to contact me on the email in the description, and if you have any theories, be sure to write them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this one in the future.